Hey everyone, it's Lindsay here, live from Event Icons IMEX Las Vegas Americas. Where are we at? My goodness. And today we are going to talk about a topic that is very truthful, the things that event planners don't know. Joining me is Mike Granek from Event Leadership Institute. And you all recently did an assessment with human resources about the things that we don't know.
Well, not an assessment. We did a quick survey and interview of industry leaders, and we
That makes it sound less aggressive. I like it.
Yeah, it is a little less.
I'm so nervous for my performance review on a couch.
So we surveyed and interviewed a few industry leaders to find out what they wish their teams knew. Like, what kind of skills do they wish that they had? Like, where are the gaps in that? And overwhelmingly, they said tech production, so knowledge of tech production, the language of tech production, and also communication skills. Now, communication skills is a tough one because they're having a lot of younger staff, for example. So, for example, text messaging versus phone calls, or having professional communications, or being able to negotiate things properly, how to actually sell and convince your boss, for example, both internally and externally, so selling to a client. So communication skills seems to be a really tough one. And then again, tech production. So they wish that more planners had a stronger grasp of the language of tech production. So not learning how to do all this stuff, but be able to walk in confident when an AV company tells them, we're going to raise that truss line up to trim height, and we're going to move that legal light over a foot. Then they know exactly what they're talking about. But what's happening is a lot of planners are really scared of tech and don't want anything to do with it. Just, no, those are for the tech guys. We'll let them deal with it. But having a basic understanding of that language is really going to help them in their jobs. And often it's not so much about what they don't know, it's that they don't want to know.
Or they don't know how to ask. I think one of the things, when I first started, I was running a 15,000 person citywide. And my boss at the time made me sit down and call the show. And I learned more in that day, just like how the chatter worked at the back of house, what the video crew did, what was going on over here, like the flow of traffic and all the pieces, like the technical production. It's not even watching the move in and even knowing what trusses and the rigging points. It's having the confidence in yourself as someone who's been, like, they don't train us to do the tech. They train us to source the venue and create the attendee experience and all those pieces. And so that confidence, just like we were talking about the money earlier, like we don't start early enough, I think, in the overall training, or you fall into the industry, right? And so if you've got someone capable who's doing it for you, that over-reliance, it's a comfort because you got enough to do.
Yeah.
So how are you recommending the industry helps catch people up around the tech before we get into the communication thing?
Well, education is one of them. Brant teaches a course with the Event Leadership.
It's really good, I've heard.
Yeah. But like you're saying, ask, and don't be afraid to ask. I mean, if I dropped you in the middle of a foreign country and you had no idea of the language, you'd be struggling. You'd be trying to figure out, and then you're not going to want to deal with that. You'll try to find somebody that speaks the language and also your language to be able to translate that. But at the same time, if you put it into the event context, your clients look to you as the expert. And you have to be the expert in everything. And it doesn't mean, again, that you have to do it, but you have to understand it so that when your client comes up to you and says, we want to do this amazing thing, you don't have to then go, well, I have to check with the AV guys. You know right away whether that's possible or not, or what may or may not be possible, or what questions to ask the AV company. But it's really important to understand at least the basics of that language, because it only makes you a better planner. It makes you more valuable to your client. Especially in the days now where events sometimes can be perceived as moving towards being commoditized.
Ooh, look at him with the sass.
And there is a perception of that. Yeah. And so adding value to what you bring to the table as a planner and being an expert in that regard is really important as well. So
you hit on a really important thing. I loved your analogy with the foreign country, because it's not only you go and you find someone who will help you do it, but it maybe won't make you feel stupid. Because I think that there are some crews out there, and there's certain, just the culture of it. all of the AV people that I work with are usually welcoming, but there's always that one guy, especially when it's like it's largely female over here on the planner side, largely male over there on the AV side and the tech side. How do we bridge that gap? And did that just take us to the communication conversation?
Well, it is, but I used to teach at a higher education institution, and I used to teach a class, tech production as well, excuse me, and largely female. And immediately they would come into the class. The last thing they wanted to do is be in that class. Tech production, right away, immediately, they're like, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm stupid when it comes to tech. And on that first day, I didn't even have to teach tech. I had to teach them the relevance of knowing this stuff. And so one of the things that I made them say was, stop saying that you're stupid when it comes to technology, because you're actually not stupid. You just haven't learned the language yet. And the same thing in terms of women versus men. There are now more women AV techs out there than there used to be back in the day when I used to produce. Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to understand that it's not the women are dumb to be able to do that stuff. Is that maybe they haven't chosen to do it or what have you. But
mentors coming into it.
Exactly. And so we have to get away from that mindset that that's not a woman's role. And we also have to get away from the mindset that you're stupid when it comes to tech. And it's not just AV stuff. It's software. It's, event tech, the apps. A lot of the times the same people that are saying, oh, I'm dumb when it comes to this tech stuff, or it's a guy's thing.
What's an API and why is it useful to me?
Exactly. Now, you as a planner should at least understand what API is. And is it really going to matter in your day-to-day? No, but that one time where your client is asking you to do something software related and that API key is going to come in really handy, or that API connection, you now know, and you'll also be able to speak in the same language with your suppliers and be able to say, okay, this is what my client wants to do. I think we need an API for this particular thing. It's just going to make the planning process better. But yeah, I think I've digressed a little bit here.
No, I mean, let's circle back around though and kind of come in, because I really want to make sure we've got a little bit of time to talk about communication, because you were saying earlier before we came on camera that it was, the younger staff were struggling with some of the soft skills and like talking about negotiating. What is professionalism in written versus phone calls versus face-to-face? So break it down a little bit about what the leadership is hoping to see from a communication standpoint and where we're kind of falling short of those expectations.
Well, they're hoping to see the younger people, especially the people that have come into the industry that haven't been trained in those professional communication skills, to have the same skill set that they have, that they've learned over years.
Define young, define mature.
No.
He's
I'm not getting in trouble.
Bombs, and yet,
getting in trouble.
So we generalize Gen Y. Gen
when
Z.
I say younger, it's inexperience versus experience.
Gotcha.
Is what
so
I mean.
less than 5 years in the industry. Safer?
Yeah.
Ooh, I
safer.
like it.
There we go. Okay, not getting in trouble. I'm not gonna guess how old you are either. So, but that's. So basically, they're having the expectations that they want them to communicate in the same style. The problem is that people are entering the industry and they're getting all the tech knowledge, and what I mean is project management skills, the accounting skills, the ROI, all the stuff that we want them to know from a tech standpoint, but or from a knowledge standpoint. But the problem is that they're not practicing enough of those professional communication skills. So they may have opportunities in a higher education program, for example, to pitch a client.
Right.
But that's one-off. It takes a lot of practice to learn to negotiate. So in this case, what I'm suggesting is that the more experienced planners, if those are the skills that you want your team to have, you need to actually teach them. So you need to budget for a training and education of your team. And
you make me so happy with those words.
Budget, money?
No, professional development. Pay for the professional development. Invest in your staff.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, invest in your staff.
And that's one thing that we also realized when we were interviewing these industry leaders, is there is almost no budget for training and development. What they consider training and development is going to conferences, but the problem is you can't really track your team in terms of their progress. You can't quantify the education and the professional development they're getting. So they're going to trade shows and conferences, and that's great. There's a lot of great education there, right. But you as the owner of the business or the planner, how do you know that they're actually attending the conferences?
Right.
How do you know that they're actually learning something and attending the right sessions for what you want them to learn and bring back to your company. What are the benefits that you're getting? And that should be part of their performance reviews and part of their, now I don't like the word performance reviews. It's more about goal setting and planning. Performance reviews.
That's way less Jack Welch. I like it.
Yeah, and it's less punitive. It's more about, okay, here are the skills that you need to work on over the next year.
Right.
How can we set you up? And then set up a professional development plan, set them up with online courses, books, and if they're going to industry conferences, set some goals for them. Here's what I'd like you to do. Here's some sessions that we found for you, and we think that this would be perfectly in line with what the goals and expectations are for your professional development over the next year.
I like that because, really in all these topics, Mike, it's not just we need to work on tech skills for planners. We need to work on communication skills. It's really thinking about holistically, like we were just talking about with Stephanie, like what is your goal for the business? What is the goal for the events that your clients are wanting to run, that you yourself run, whether you are an agency, you're an organization, no matter where it is. So where would you recommend one goes to find information about getting better at your job and planning these holistic educational opportunities for new and mature planners?
A little biased here, but the Event Leadership Institute. So we have education, and we also have on-demand education where you can sign up for $25 a month or $250 for the year, and you get access to a whole library full of courses and professional development. And we've got team plans specifically for larger event teams where they can set up and track their team's progress as well. And we also have certificate courses like Brant's course, technical meeting and event production, that specifically talks
he
to...
He gets $10 every time he references Brant's course.
Brant,
so just
Brant,
help him.
Brant. There we go.
So with these courses, do you get CMM, CMP, CAE credit in addition to the certificates that you yourselves are giving out?
Yeah, so some of our courses you can actually get CMP credit hours for if you're working towards your CMP. If for those that are actually working on their CMP, like you can get those hours through us. But if you are trying to decide on industry credentialing, it's different than what we offer. Mm-hmm. And usually industry credentialing is based on experience in the industry. So right. the CMP, CMMs, and CSCPs, all those are based on how many years of experience you had in the industry. But if you're looking for ongoing professional development, even if you are a CMP, even if you have a master's degree, there's always something to learn. One of the things that I found, I joined Event Leadership Institute about 3 years ago. When I first joined, I was really surprised when I looked through the demographic, and most of our planners are senior level, or most of our clients are senior level planners that have 16 plus years of experience. And I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, why are these people taking our courses?
What did you decide was the answer? I know I have an opinion on this, but I want to hear your thought.
Well, and I started asking, and is the most successful people are the ones that are continuing their professional development and they value professional development, and they don't have that opinion that I know everything. Yes. And they'll learn things to even just pass on to their team. So I think having and switching that mindset over to, I finished my degree or my course or my industry designation, that's it, I'm done. We should be constantly learning, especially when it comes to tech and AV stuff or software, even communication skills. Yeah. There's always something new to learn, and you really should have a professional development plan, not just for your team, but for yourself as well and the owners of the company. Yes. Which is another thing too, is we look at event owners. Event company owners tend to focus on the creative. They love the event business specifically. A lot of people, especially that are super experienced, they got into this industry by accident, want nothing to do with the accounting department, for example.
We actually like the accounting department because that's what buys the shoes and keeps the mortgage paid.
Yes.
But it's more fun to go to the trade show floor and go, how did that get up there?
Yeah.
Did you see that ice sculpture? I like that ice sculpture.
Exactly. But I've heard a lot of business owners say, "Well,
it's more fun."
Yeah. It's not that they don't want to know the books per se, but it's just they want to pass it off to the accountant or the bookkeeper. That's why I've got an accountant for that. The problem is that you still need to know how to read the books. Yes. What if your accountant isn't doing a good job? What if your bookkeeper is not allocating things in the right places? That's going to put you in a position of potential risk. But in addition to that, now I forgot. I lost my train of thought. But
it's important for us to all be lifelong owners, not just the event owners, but also all the way from the top to the bottom. And it really, I think, to land the plane, it starts at the top. right?
Absolutely.
And if we're not modeling that behavior, it's something that, I work with my staff quite a bit where I'm like, you're going to teach me things because you are brand new. I've been doing this for a very long time. And so sometimes I look at it and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I don't challenge my box. And then I have a staffer come in and she's like, why is that there? And she doesn't mean it in a critical way, but she's like, that makes no sense. Yeah. And it's like the emperor has no clothes. Why is that there? Yeah. And it's what I love about this industry is that every day is different and everything could be different if we would only say, ooh, but what are we doing and why are we doing it and how can we get better at it so that we as an industry move forward to be fantastic.
Well, and being open to change as well.
Yes.
Because just because that's the way you've been doing business for 20, 30 years doesn't mean that that's the way business will continue for you. And you could be putting yourself at risk of losing business if you're not changing with the times. So I think that's a great idea. Listen to the younger, the
look, you did it again now.
So politically correct now, right? So the people that are entering into the industry and getting ideas from them because they're learning all this stuff. And I'm just remembering one other thing that they did say, the leaders, was having the ability to curate software. So, for example, understanding a way to go through the sea of all the different software and apps and technology that's available and understand how to pick and choose. So I think one of the challenges is right now is, especially if you've got a senior level planner or a business owner, they're overwhelmed with all the technology that's out there. So they send that off to the junior team. The junior team then is also overwhelmed because they haven't had experience with anything or only one or two, and especially
no one can advise the client.
Yeah. And so how do we teach them to curate that, or how do we teach them to evaluate? So evaluation skills, critical thinking skills, a lot of that comes with experience. Yeah. And part of that experience would be you passing that information along, mentoring, supervising. Mentorships is always really important too. Yeah, so.
I think right here what you're hearing us do is design basically the next course for ELI around curating really important, like how do you choose the things? And we could talk about it for days and days, so we'll have to have you come back for the nice full hour.
Sounds
but
good.
You were amazing. Thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time. We'll be back to talk more event icons, IMEX meetings, hospitality, and just goodness and gravy. Bye, y'all.